Yeah, not going to be so much group action going on because New Zealand moves into phase 2 of the COVID response at 11:59 tonight. An integral part of this is RAT tests, but the National Party says the government isn't making them readily available. National COVID response spokesperson Chris Bishop joins us now. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for joining us this hour in the morning. Chris, as an MP, once we go into phase 2, will you be able to access rapid antigen tests to return to work if you're a close contact?
Well, that's a good question. There's a bit of lack of clarity around that. Parliament has been doing a trial of rapid tests. So I actually had one a couple of weeks ago when we were on our caucus away day in Queenstown. So I have had a rapid test and MPs do have access to them. But of course, that's not a privilege that is afforded to most other people. My wife, for example, can't just go down to a pharmacy or a supermarket and buy a rapid test to take before we go out to dinner, for example. And that's something that we think should be the case for many New Zealanders.
So do you know yet whether you're considered an essential worker?
So the term is critical worker, which is one of the problems because the nomenclature is different to essential worker, which everyone had got used to before. And so, no, we haven't been, it's not clear to me yet whether or not we are critical workers, but that sort of misses the wider point, which is that everyone should have access to rapid tests, not just MPs.
And wouldn't the issue with that be cost and the fact that we just don't have enough in the country?
Well, if the government allowed people to actually bring them in and sell them, then a lot of those problems would go away. We're now dealing with the legacy of the government who banned rapid tests for most of last year and only recently allowed people to bring them in, and then only under very limited circumstances. So there's only about 10 rapid tests approved in New Zealand. In Australia, it's over 50, for example. So we could legalise those tomorrow and allow companies alongside the public sector to bring in rapid tests and flood the country with tests.
Yeah,
but the government won't do that.
The issue is, though, they're not quite as accurate as the PCR tests, right? So that you still need to put a lot of resources into the PCR tests.
Oh, absolutely, you do need the PCR testing, and we should be bolstering what we're doing there as well by using saliva-based PCR testing as well. We're still not using all of the capability in the country. But 981 cases yesterday, there'll be over 1,000 today, or certainly tomorrow anyway. Those numbers are now going to spike very, very quickly, and we're going to need access to rapid testing. There's just no doubt about it. Every expert agrees on that. And so the problem is that we're not making them widely available enough. We need to get into the habit of being able to buy a test to protect yourself and your family and your whānau. People should be able to use them before they go out to dinner, for example, before they go and visit their grandparents in rest homes. In Singapore, they're available in vending machines. I saw someone sent me a clip from Denmark, where they live. It's a Kiwi in Denmark. They were going off to buy a Danish pastry or a coffee or something, and they were available at the counter of the pastry shop. Pick up a 4-pack alongside your pastry. So, why can't we have that here?
Yeah, Chris, just sorry to interrupt, but just quickly before you go, what do you make of the government's handling of the protesters and how would you propose to move them on?
I'm really critical of the way the speakers behaved. Childish and embarrassing, frankly, with the playing of the Spotify playlist.
But you have to move them on somehow, right? What idea would you have?
Well, that's a matter for the police. As it turns out, the speaker, Mr. Mallard, didn't even bother to consult with the police about what he was doing. Yeah. So ultimately, the police have got to lead this. It's not for politicians like me to direct them in what they should do. What I can do, though, is say that what the speaker was doing, I think, was counterproductive and ineffective. Ultimately, how it gets resolved, and it does have to be resolved, you're right, of course.
And they're saying if the government ended mandates, it would be resolved. Would you end mandates?
Well, our view is that we have to have an end to mandates at some point, and we need to phase them out. And we've asked for the criteria from the government as to when that would be. Now, whether or not that's enough to appease the protesters is a different story. They want an immediate end to mandates right now, and that's not going to happen under anyone's plan.
National Party COVID response spokesperson Chris Bishop. Chris, thanks for joining us.